What is up, duelists? Arts and Crafts here with your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format action. Today's feature match, we've got SS95 versus Tomas de Torquemada. Hope I said that right. As always, both players rated in the top 200 spots on the Duelingbook GOAT format ladder. So some high-rated matchups for you guys as always. Now, notably, I think advanced format, kind of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Did have a banless update today, so starting today or tomorrow, all of the ratings of players on the ladder will reset. So I'll still probably do some videos, but until kind of the cream of the crop separates itself out and rises up top of the ladder, we might get some really interesting stuff coming through, some suboptimal decks, stuff that you wouldn't normally see, maybe a little less chaos mirrors and stuff. But today, this match was played the day before the ban list dropped, so still two very high rated players here that have proven that they're top duelists in this iteration of the GOAT format ladder. So let's get right into it. A little bit of rock paper scissors action. Tomas is going to go first. Going to lead out with a Thunder Dragon. So, as potentially predicted and as usual, at least one of these players is going to be rocking a little bit of chaos stuff. Going to go set a monster past SS95. We'll see if they're rocking anything spicy. They laid it with a Pot of Greed to go up a nice card there. And we're going to normal summon Mystic Tomato, which is interesting. Not a card you always see. Quite a good card in the format, but generally played in either more aggressive chaos lists, like the rarely seen Chaos Recruiters, which used to be a lot more popular before Gravekeeper Spy became a thing. Could signify like Empty Jar likes to run Mystic Tomatoes. Could be Goat Control running Abyss Soldier, because you get this search kind of sequence of Mystic Tomato search Sangan, Sangan search Sinister Serpent, so you can enable the Abyss Soldier more easily. But Tomato gonna hit the board here, and SS95 getting off to an aggressive start here, gonna attack into the Scent Monster. It is a Sangan for Tomas, so they're gonna be able to grab a search target of their own, and they're gonna grab their own Sinister Serpent. All right. SS95 adds a back row passes. Tomas here very likely on Chaos Turbo or Chaos Control. Gonna just go and slam down this BLS here in main phase 1, which is quite a tidy way of dealing with the Mystic Tomato. Not going to be able to get its search effect off here. And Tomas smartly summoning BLS in defense position. You do not have to worry about the Tomato really crashing into it, right? Because BLS is going to banish it, but you do know your opponent is running Recruiters. So summoning your big monsters in defense, if possible, to prevent crashes to search for stuff is a pretty strong play. 2,500 defense out of BLS is stronger than pretty much any monster in the format that you really have to worry about, for the most part. Yeah, super early BLS here with the turn 1 Thunder Dragon into Sangan getting beat over by a Tomato, getting Light and Dark Engrave quite early, so BLS hitting the board, and that's a lot for SS95 to deal with this quickly into the game. Tomato will get banished, and then Tomas has another threat to follow it up potentially with this set monster and a back row, so SS95 on the back foot very early in this game. We'll see if they have an out to this BLS. Gonna draw for turn. Snap Steal is an out to BLS. We'll see if Tomas's back row has anything to do with this. No, we're just gonna go let that resolve, and then BLS effect will come through to banish the Sinister that got grabbed off of Sangan. Interesting play to set the Sinister there, but potentially trying to eat a knock or something, or I'm not really sure. But that will hit the banish zone, and this BLS will get SS95. It'll equalize that early activation from Tomas, and things are quite even here. SS95 also has the Book of Moon to flip their BLS, or to flip Tomas's BLS face down, stealing it permanently, because now they don't have to worry about the Snatch Shield getting popped, and the BLS returning over to Tomas's side of the field. Face down BLS also plays around potential Snatch Shield of Tomas's own, as well as Ring of Destruction if they have that, but does make it vulnerable to Nobleman of Crossout, for example, if that's in Tomas's hand. Can you do this? Oh yeah, I guess you can. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, so gonna book the BLS, and then flip summon it so that it can attack this turn, because it's, essentially you get 2 uses of its effect, or it turns off the first activation of it. So it allows BLS to attack, get in for 3k, and SS95 with the early snatch steal on the early BLS, taking just taking the initiative here completely away from Tomas, and now has a pretty massive threat on the board that Tomas has to deal with. We have Jar of Greed to try and dig for an answer into a main phase 1 scapegoat, so Tomas must be running Chaos Control. Scapegoat coming through here just to wall out the BLS, I guess. And then we're just going to go ahead and creature swap, which is quite good. SS95 not having anything chaining. Scapegoat of their own would have been pretty good to just trade goat tokens, but doesn't have that option. And now BLS has changed ownership for the second time this game, returning back to, Tomas, the original owner. And, ooh, we've got Book of Moon here. Oh, no, interesting. Misclick. Wasn't really going to do anything. But now you know that SS95 doesn't have Mirror Force or anything set. So BLS will just be able to kill this goat token and then get in for 3k. And now initiative is swung back to Tomas's side. Basically, whoever controls BLS is in the driver's seat. SS95, your snatch steal is gone. We know you have book set. Do you have any other way of dealing with this BLS? Gonna go set a couple back row pass, maybe bluffing or threatening like a Mirror Force or something. Torrential would be pretty good here if Tomas plays into it, but not really any reason to. Just gonna go get in for 3k with the BLS. We do have Ring on the BLS, dropping both players down to 2,000. And man, we're super early in this game. I think this is turn 4? And both players already down to 2,000 life points. Just BLS being able to attack in a bunch, getting ringed. And this is going to be probably a pretty short game. Tomas does have these goat tokens here to wall out any of the aggressive stuff, like any more recruiters from SS95. So slight advantage to Tomas here just to protect the life points, but that 2k life very much will be in play for the remainder of this duel for both players. Tomas adds a back row pass. SS95 can follow up. Well, just a draw pass. Yeah, not really too much going on. Jar of Greed from Tomas to dig even further into the deck. Into Premature Burial, and is BLS just going to be like basically the only monster that gets played by either player in this game? This is pretty funny. SS95, do you have an out to this? Because BLS is just lethal. Gonna summon out the big boy again. Attack for game. We've got Book of Moon. I guess that was known. But this is a kind of negative trade here. If you do not have a way of outing the BLS, which you probably don't. So just delaying the BLS attack for a turn. But it does combo with potential Nobleman of Crossout here. Tomas gonna add another set monster as well. So saying, okay, if you have to knock my BLS, maybe you won't be able to knock my other card. You do have some other good stuff in here to grab if it's like Magician of Faith or something. Spy would be good as well because that represents lethal damage. SS95, what's your play? We're going to go set a monster and then play Book of Tayu to flip up a Cyber Jar. Okay, so this is my SS95 running potentially... I mean, this looks like Ron control, right? Just kind of a standard, basically play the jar plus Tayu combo for value, not looking to really combo off like an empty jar list and deck the opponent out, but instead using Cyber Jar here with the back row clear from Tomas to completely wipe the board, getting 3 tokens, a BLS, and an unknown back row monster. And now we're just going to spin the wheel and see if SS95... this is happening in main phase 1, so depending on how the top 5 of each player's deck pans out, you could just attack for lethal here with Tomas only at 12k life. 1,200 life, I should say. So yeah, Cyber Jar's going to clear the field. Hits an Old Vindictive Magician, which is not a monster you see every day. Target one yeah, it's just it's a Man-Eater bug, but it is a Spellcaster, so it's an Apprentice Magician target. So this could be Chaos Control with a little bit of like a Spellcaster sort of sub-theme. We'll see if we get any Apprentice Magicians coming through. But SS95 reveals their top 5 first. They hit a Sangan, a Mystic Tomato, and a Morphing Jar. So this is enough to attack for lethal. The tomato alone would be. So Tomas better hope that they hit some monsters. Otherwise, this will just be GG right now. let's see. Tomas hits a tribe-infecting virus, which is going to be able to wall out, man. Ooh, on the edge of your seat there, the first 4 cards banished. Not any monsters, so hitting that tribe there for the last one is going to keep them alive for this turn at least. Unless SS95 just has a way of dealing with the tribe. But man, that was pretty scary for Tomas. He could have just lost the whole game right there off of a kind of suboptimal Cyberjar resolution. And you can see the value of being able to force Cyberjar to trigger on your own turn. I feel like Cyberjar, it's really important who gets the first battle phase post Cyberjar is generally in a decent spot. So having the combo here to make sure that you can do it in your main phase 1 is very, very strong. Yeah, SS95, you do have to think on the positions of your mons here. Morphing Jar is something that would be cool to have resolve, depending on what else is in the hand. So in order to maximize the odds of it resolving, you could go Tomato, Sangan in defense position. I think thinking about where to place them, it makes me think SS95 does not have an out to the tribe to just attack for game, in which case setting everything might make sense. You could also maybe go Crash Tomato or Sangan or both, although that's a lot of damage when you're only at 2k life. But you do have options to crash into the tribe to search up some stuff potentially, which could be interesting. Yeah, Exiled Force isn't a... Oh, well, no, you can't search up Exiled off of Mystic Tomato anyway. Yeah, I'm trying to think, is there anything you could grab with the Tomato search that could clear Tribe in the battle phase to then attack for game with Jar plus Sangan? But I can't really think of anything off the top of my head. In which case, maybe you just put everything face down and try and maximize the odds of this Morphing Jar getting resolved. Tomas, of course, the only choice is you're just going to summon Tribe in face of attack position. Otherwise, you lose. And getting some other good stuff in hand. Knock, Ring, Meta, and a Call of the Haunted with BLS in your grave to play it for the 3rd time this game. So SS95 could be in a rough spot if they can't really get anything to resolve or push through here. Choosing to set everything, so wanting to maximize the chance that their Morphing Jar resolves seems like it. And then, yeah, Tomato. Or Tomas. For some reason, I want to call him Tomato. I don't know. I just see the Toma, and I guess my brain skips to like the D, and it's like Tomato. I don't know. But Tomas, yeah, it has to summon that tribe in attack position. SS95 gonna lead out with the Upstart Goblin, which will put Tomas up to 2,200 life points, which is still not too high, but a little bit safer. Doesn't die to a single Mystic Tomato attack, of course. Still in main phase 1 here, though. Gonna set 5 pass, prep for the potential Morphing Jar activation. We could get like a cheeky Desert Sunlight or something to even force that. And there could be heavy slump out of SS95 here too, which could be pretty solid to just rip out everything out of Tomas's hand if you want to activate that in like semi-phase or something. Yeah, and there's the heavy slump coming through. If the opponent has 8 or more cards in hand, they shuffle their entire hand into the deck and then draw 2 cards. So that's the Ron control combo right there. Cyberjar or Morphing Jar effect. I mean, Cyberjar, I guess, is the main one because that adds most cards to hand. And then you can set everything and play Heavy Stump to just like, what are we going? Tomas has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 cards in hand. So you have +7 off of this. That's insane. And this is what the deck is built to do. We've had Ron control on this channel before, but we never saw the full kind of combo here with, Jar plus Tayu into Heavy Slump to, basically just maximize value. It's not the cool combo finish that an Empty Jar deck would go for, but this is essentially just like a combo for pure value, and you can kind of close the game out from here. Now, interestingly, Tomas losing all of their cards does make Morphing Jar a little bit worse, because now if Tomas can like attack into it or something, you're fine going up, like +3 off of that, most likely. But either way, Heavy Sum is going to resolve. Shuffle that deck, draw 2, kiss that Cyberjar, all the goodies you drew, goodbye. At least you hit a tribe to not lose immediately, but only hitting one monster, pretty bad in the scenario because it made Heavy Slump even more valuable. And now you're down tons and tons of cards thanks to that combo. How can you come back from here? It's a little bit tough. You kind of want to gamble on resolving this Morphing Jar. Drawing into Pot of Greed off the Heavy Slump, though, is not too bad. So I'm going to go up at least one more card. Into set a monster. Pass. Or sorry, no, just set a monster and then try to attack the 1 for 3 into a tribe. SS95, or try to attack the tribe into a Morphing Jar. SS95, you have to guess, has some sort of interaction here. So what's nice is you can see if tribe guesses correctly and hits the Morphing Jar before you decide what to do. Because you'd be really happy for a tribe to beat over a jar or a Sangan and get the search off. So 2/3 chance that this is good for you, 1/3 chance that you at least have a chance of reacting to tribe, assuming you have relevant back row. But we'll see what the dice roll comes up with. It just hits the tomato, so SS95 going to be able to search up just another copy of that one, running the full 3. Pretty staple card to search up these cyber jars. Best card in the deck, so you just want to be able to search it out as much as possible, because of course cyber jar, like its cousin Morphing Jar, is limited in GOAT format. You can only play one copy. So Mystic Tomato kind of acts as cyber jar copies 2, 3, 4, even 5 if you count the Sangan. That's likely in the deck as well. Sangan is nice that it can search Morphing Jar as well. But yeah, Tomas not winning that 1 out of 3 chance to hit the Morphing Jar. But we're gonna go main phase 2, tribe effect to pop the tomato, prevent it from crashing and summoning out anything else. So kind of a 1-for-1 trade there. And SS95 not going to want to resolve this Morphing Jar most likely. They do have set Sangan, which could be interesting. Just going to set a monster. Oh, so we are going to go for the Morphing Jar, which, I mean, I guess it's +4 for both players. And doing it in main phase 1 is good, like I said last time. Not as impactful as the Cyber Jar, but going up 4 cards that you can use immediately while your opponent, it's like a wheel effect in Magic. It's just good to use it on your own turn because you get to use all the cards first. And in which case, like, you're just abusing the tempo advantage that comes with resolving these jar cards. Gonna discard BLS, which, yeah, no lights engrave, so we're just kind of dead there. So gonna pitch in that BLS. It does get a light engrave in case they're running Sork, which is nice. But probably would wish that they could have just resolved the BLS and attack for game, most likely. Okay, so Tomas loses an Apprentice Magician. So they are running a cool little Spellcaster control sort of list, which is nice. Haven't seen that on the channel yet, but I appreciate it. And then both players will get to draw back up to 5 cards. Tomas in a really good position to clear finish this game out here, potentially, but has already used normal summon for the turn. So, less likely to be able to use all of the cards that they just drew. Okay, we're going to get Desert Sunlight to force an activation here. Flip up that known Sangan, and then flip up a Magician of Faith, which, with lots of good stuff engraved to grab, you could just grab Snatch Steal to steal the tribe and try and close out the game that way. You could just grab Pot of Greed to dig a little bit further if you want. If you have another Book of Taiyu in hand, you could go grab Book of Moon to like flip Morphing Jar face down and do this again. That could be cute. We'll see what they go for. Gonna grab Snatch Steal, so just gonna go and steal that tribe. Make the aggressive play. Gonna use its effect. Discarding Demock to pop. Oh, so we're getting really cute here. I like it. So what this deck can do, it can do these cool combo-esque lines, even though it's really like a control deck at its core. But you can do a lot of cool stuff like this. So Snatch on Tribe, Tribe effect, discarding a Demock, getting in the grave as like a premature burial target, and naming Fiend to pop the Sangan to get a search effect off here. We'll see what they have to grab. They have another Magician of Faith. So now we could go like premature or Call of the Haunted, revive Demock. Oh, but you already used your normal summon this turn, so you're not going to be able to set that Faith here. So just going for value, just wanting to recur all of its stuff. And like I said, this is a control deck shell, so you don't need to win the game here right now. You could just recur all of your good spells. You stole your opponent's best monster. things are looking good even if you don't have the win this turn, right? And you're up a ton of cards, so I think things are looking pretty good overall. Yeah, so we got the Premature Burial. We'll drop SS95 down to 1200 with rings still left in Tomas's deck, most likely. Is a little bit risky. This is, of course, just game if you have Tribe beat over the set monster, Demock, attack for game, potentially. But Demock can go and recur Book of Moon. Okay. What's the play? We're going to go Book of Moon, flip down the jar. Yeah, so like I was saying, you can get a little bit cute with Book plus maybe another Desert Sunlight or maybe another Book of Taiyu. We're going to go Book of Taiyu to flip up the jar, spin everyone again. So that Faith just being used for whatever reason. I guess just thinning the deck by getting it out, and because it's a card that you know you're not going to be able to utilize this turn, so a little bit of marginal percentage gain there by just searching out the Faith and potentially drawing into better stuff that you can use to close out the game right now. And you got 9 cards left in deck. You hit a bunch of good stuff, including a Thunder Dragon before Tomas can utilize it. Hit both knocks, which is pretty good, although it probably doesn't matter at this point. Hit a Scapegoat as well. But SS95, just trying to find the win here. Could just have it with Tribe plus Demock attack. But let's see. They have Thunder Dragon. Okay. Not sure if Ron Control always runs Thunder Dragon, but I guess it's pretty good when you're running BLS, right? So I think that's fine. You also run Tribe, so the discard fodder is nice. Does kind of counteract with like the Morphing Jar and the Cyber Jars, but enabling BLS is quite strong. And then we're just gonna go card D. Man, are we gonna deck ourselves out? Sheesh. Yeah, so Thunder Dragon. So on top of all the other Baroque and stuff they did this turn, it's kind of funny seeing them resolve Thunder Dragon plus card D, which like is really good. But just seems so tame in comparison to everything we've seen. Like Chaos Turbo has to work so hard to resolve card D plus Thunder Dragon, and here it's just like kind of an afterthought after you've gotten like Demock, Book of Taiyu, Morphing Jar twice in a turn, Magician of Faith, all this crap that happened. And so to round it all out with Thunder Dragon plus card D is a little bit funny, but gonna get a lot of value out of that, of course, as well. Ripping out a lot of stuff out of your opponent's hand. And it's really just, okay, how do you win this game? What are you looking for? Are we trying to dig for Knock? Is Knock like one of the last 2 cards in the deck? That'd be really funny. We haven't seen Ennoblement at all. But is it really like the bottom 2 cards of the deck are Ennoblement of Crossout? That'd be really funny. Let's see. Show me the Knock. Show me the Knock. Oh, we got Monster Reincarnation. Okay, so this is how you win. Digging into potentially Monster Reincarnation, return the BLS to hand. Plenty of Lights and Darks in Grave to go summon BLS, banish the set monster, and then attack for game with Tribe plus Demock plus Morphing Jar. So that found the win here. Yep, grab the BLS, summon it out, banish the set monster, and Tomas, you might as well just concede before your opponent can see what it is, just to not give away any additional info. But really cool, their SS95 with Ron Control versus Spellcaster Control, I guess is what we would call. So nominally a control mirror, which we see a lot on this channel, but a very unconventional one, with both players running some really interesting stuff. Tomas takes it down here with a massive, massive turn there, showing off what Ron Control can do. You know, Cyber Jar into Heavy Slump to kind of take massive advantage, go up 1 billion cards, and then closing it out with a really interesting Demock, Morphing Jar, Monster Reincarnation for BLS. It almost looks like a Reasoning Gate Turbo deck, right? With the way it closed that one out. But really cool to see. Take down game 1. Tomas, though, not out for the count just yet. Gonna go first here on this Spellcaster deck, which is pretty cool to see as well. And they're gonna lead out with a Thunder Dragon. So going up a little bit of cards here. Into Pot of Greed, so opening some Trinity is quite nice to see. Into T-Set Pass. So pretty strong start there. Going up about a card and a half, and tempo advantage from going first. First player to play a monster. We'll see if SS95 allows it to resolve. SS95 has Thunder Dragon of their own, and we know they're on card destruction, so we might be seeing that coming through. We got Minecon coming out of the side deck most likely, because I mean I guess we saw almost every card in their deck in game 1, and we didn't see Minecon. But looks like they must have sided it in. They snag a Magician of Faith. So Tomas just saying, hey, let me just send out my faith super early, trying to get the really. I mean, I'm not going to call it greedy because you don't know that your opponent's on Minecon. You don't even know that they're on Nobleman of Crossout. You didn't see a single one game 1. But Minecon on the faith here. Tomas, of course, trying to go just recur their Pot of Greed and start pulling away in terms of card advantage. But SS95 is going to steal that faith. Ooh, and then we're going to get Duo, Flip Up Faith, Duo again for SS95 to go up a ton of cards. This first Duo not going to get too much value because Tomas is sitting on 2 Thunder Dragons in hand, which can insulate you from the first Duo. But the second one will get close to max value. And we'll see what this Duo rips out. Hits one of the Thunder Dragons, Tomas discards the other one. And then we're going to get Faith Effect, Duo again. Chain Jar of Greed, though, so Tomas trying to protect some of the stuff they have in hand. Interesting to not do that the first time around. I feel like if you were going to do that, you might as well just do it before the first Duo anyway. But I guess maybe the first time you want to maximize the odds that they hit a Thunder Dragon. So not jarring is here. But now you probably have, like... Now Jar allows you to minimize the effects that they hit your best card. So, first Duo... maximize the chance they hit a Thunder Dragon. Second one, minimize the chance they hit your best card, I guess is the play. I think that makes sense. But yeah, Chaining Jar, draw a card. We'll see what Duo hits again. And really good start here, like I said, from Tomas with the Thunder Dragon plus Pot. But just getting completely destroyed by this Minecon on their faith. Which is a little bit unfortunate. You know, you don't know that your opponent is playing Minecon, but it is quite a strong card in exactly the scenario when your opponent says Magician of Faith. So SS95 getting rewarded for playing that card in the 55 and siding it in here, most likely. This hits a Nobleman of Crossout, which is a very, very important card against Ron Control. Although, you know, although Ron Control plays a lot of cards to minimize the usefulness of Knock, like we saw Desert Sunlight and Book of Taiyu. So it really only will get value in the cases where your opponent doesn't have one of those, but you definitely still want it. It's still an important card in the matchup. And then Tomas going to discard Sangan as well, so getting a Dark Engrave at least. Remember last game when like Tomas just like summoned BLS game 2, really took over the game, and they were just like that game just lasted forever and so much cool stuff happened. Not to like dwell on the past or anything, but that was just really interesting stuff that we saw. And it feels like eons ago that Tomas dropped the turn 2 BLS and took initiative over the game state. And yeah, just Ron Control doing its thing, heavy sump combos and stuff to take it back. Tomas setting up for potentially the same sort of thing here by dunking the Sangan into the grave to set up Chaos. And SS95 hitting a knock off of the Delinquent Duo, so a little bit safer for them, even if they don't have Book of Taiyu or Desert Sunlight, to set one of their high-value Jar monsters, because you know at least one of the knocks is gone. Doesn't have a monster to play, we're choosing not to, though. Just going to set a back row and pass, and the Faith will be unmind-controlled and return back to Tomas' side of the board. Things could be salvaged if Tomas has, like, Tsukuyomi in hand to establish a Suk loop, potentially. Only one back row to worry about, which might not always be something super relevant. And they do have the Tsukuyomi loop, so SS95, you gotta hope you have, like, Ring or something to break this up, otherwise this Pot of Greed will come in and resolve, most likely. Yep. So, really good starts from both players here. Tomas went Pot, or Thunder Dragon plus Pot, plus Set Faith with his Tsukuyomi in hand. SS95 had the Minecon for the Faith to play Duo twice, but Tomas is right back in this with establishing this Suk loop to recur Pot. And SS95 needs to have an out to this, otherwise they'll just get plussed into Oblivion through this combo. So Pot resolves. We're just going to get in for some damage. Playing into Mirror Force here, which is a little bit risky, but you might as well, have the clock going, because it's only a matter of time before SS95 draws into a Pot, if they don't have one already. Hit in for 14 is quite good as well. Okay, so we have the Ring on the Tsukuyomi? This is really odd. So you had Ring the whole time. you would think you would just have ringed the Faith to prevent them from grabbing the pot, right? But maybe not wanting to lose to like BLS or something if ring is your only chaos out. So maybe just playing super conservatively here, which could be fine if your hand is really good, right? Or you know what? So here's the thing, right? Maybe you don't care too much. Well, in that case, why would you even ring the souk? I was gonna say maybe you don't care too much about Faith plus pot if you're just gonna like force a Morphing Jar, Book of Tayu thing next turn potentially. But in that case, like, what's the point in ringing the Tsukuyomi here? Unless you have Cyberstein in hand, you need to stay above 5k. I don't know. No, but that doesn't ring doesn't do that anyway. I don't know. Kind of an interesting series of plays here. It's like you either care about this or you don't. And if you care about it, you should have just ringed the Faith. If you didn't care about it, you should just save the ring, probably. Right? I don't know. Maybe this will make sense in a couple turns, but a little bit puzzling for me here. But both players will take 1100, and the Souk Loop will get a little bit of value to recur the Pot of Greed, but gonna get stopped here thanks to the ring. And then Tomas is gonna set a back row pass. SS95, will you do something that makes sense to me? Graceful Charity is gonna come out here. Okay. See if they have any good discard fodder. They have, well, yeah, we knew those Thunder Dragons were in hand, so being able to cash those in, getting the kind of return on their investment for playing Thunder Dragon, able to cash them in a turn or so later. Just going to set a back row pass. And yeah, I'm still not convinced that that ring play made sense. Tomas has a breaker of their own here. Going to go and pop this back row. It is a Book of Moon, though, so you can just trade that for the breaker token, flip it face down, and potentially beat over it next turn. Upstart out of Tomas. Interesting that they chose not to use it first, but maybe, I guess, if SS95 was at 46, breaker plus BLS is exactly lethal. So maybe you were hoping to do that, but now you're not going to slam down the BLS and you're fine upstarting. So potentially that coming through. Jar to dig a little bit further. Just going to turn Faith to defense position. We're going to get Premature Burial on the Thunder Dragon, potentially, or maybe the Sangan if they need to search something out. Just on the Thunder Dragon, okay, it'll hit your opponent down to 4k. And if you had this play... Oh, yeah, maybe you had... If you had BLS in hand, you probably jar first, in case you draw into Premature, because then you have lethal with the BLS. So, sequencing... If the 1,000 life points mattered, you probably jar first there, right? Otherwise, I don't see why you wouldn't have just upstarted before you went for the breaker play, but what do I know? Okay, we got Metamorphosis. Interesting. Okay. So we're going to get Meta Thousand Eyes into Dark Balter, which is just quite a strong card. Negating flips that it destroys in battle is pretty relevant, because Cyber Jar and Morphing Jar are a thing. Negating normal spells is just a good effect in the format, but two of the big ones already being used, of course, with Duo and Graceful in the bin. Negating Book of Tayu is nice as well. That's a normal spell. So Dark Balter, pretty good card in the matchup, actually. So prioritizing this Premature on Thunder Dragon, meta into Dark Balter play to kind of shut off some of the combo-esque plays that SS95 could go for. And it's a big 2,000 beater. So gonna get in, drop the opponent down to 36, and now you have lethal next turn with this breaker, which is quite strong. Tomas gonna go set a couple back row passes as well with quite a strong board. Like I said, passing with lethal here. SS95. Let's see, just gonna set a couple back row pass. Interesting. We're gonna get end phase MST out of Tomas. 50-50 pop. One of them hits a Book of Moon, which could have just bought you a little bit of time. Unfortunately, unable to beat over the breaker or anything, so breaker does just get kind of the plus by popping the book. Book just saving you 1,600 life points if you're SS95, so probably not the most worthwhile trade ever there. Breaker is quite a good card, of course. Plussing there, as it often does. And now Tomas clearing out one of the back row, making a little bit less likely that SS95 has any relevant interaction to stop you from winning the game this turn. And yeah, we'll see if Dark Balter plus Breaker is just going to win them the game. Flip summoning there, playing potentially into Torrential Tribute, but SS95 does not have it. Playing into Mirror Force here. Okay, Breaker gets in for 16. Dark Balter. Do we just have Book of Moon number 3? Yeah, Book of Moon number 3, dang. So, yeah, SS95, Book is a good card, but it often just goes -1 in scenarios where it's not good, right? I think playing triple Book makes sense in a deck that is trying to resolve as many jars as possible. But unfortunately, when you don't have your jars and you don't have any of the cool stuff to interact with your books, sometimes it just doesn't really do anything. Now, one of the big uses of Book of Moon in more fair decks is like we saw there, flip the Breaker face down. You go negative temporarily, but then if you can beat over the Breaker, you recoup the loss. So it ends up being, an even card advantage trade in the future. But in decks without a lot of aggro monsters, you're not really trying to attack for damage most of the time until you just go for like an Alpha Strike, like we saw last game, go for an OTK. Book that version of Book where it's decent for doing that just doesn't really pop up as much. We did see SS95 is running Gravekeeper Spy in the deck, so we could have seen like normal summon Spy to beat over Breaker, but then you're normal summoning Gravekeeper Spy, which is not what you always want to be doing. You don't want to have to commit to that to get max value out of your books. That's a long-winded way of saying that, I think, like I said, Book of Moon makes sense at 3 when you're trying to do unfair stuff with it, like resolve your jars. But Wrong Control, unfortunately, is not a deck that's set up well to get fair value out of its Book of Moons, if that makes sense. And just using it here, once again, to just save a little bit of life points, prevent them from dying to this Dark Balter. Now the Dark Balter effect is shut down. Notably, Tomas did declare an attack with the Dark Balter, so it can't get flip summoned here in main phase 2, which means that the ability to negate normal spells is turned off, which could provide an opening for SS95 to maybe resolve a jar if they have Book of Taiyu in hand, potentially. But we'll see if it ends up mattering. Tomas adding another set monster to the board as well. Cyber Jar would be pretty insane here. Cyber Jar plus Book of Taiyu. Let's see, we got set monster, set of back row, so no crazy combos. This the set back row could of course be Desert Sunlight. Something like the Gravekeeper Spy would be decent here as well, just kind of wall out everything. So SS95 back against the wall, but survived the lethal turn thanks to these Book of Moons. But still not completely out of it just yet. And man, these have been some interesting games. Ooh, Tomas has the flip summon Magician of Faith here main phase 1. Could just grab knock and attack for game with Dark Balter. Is that the play? Are you going to be a little bit more greedy? Are we going to go for Pot of Greed potentially? Are we going to go for Metamorphosis into Thousand Eyes maybe? Probably not that. Gonna grab MST. Okay, so worried more about the back row than they are the set monster. Interesting call to grab to do that. I guess this is really bad into Desert Sunlight, assuming this set monster is real. Interesting play. Just wanted to clear out the back row. We'll see if it ends up being the right call. MST on the back row. It's just a bluff set giant Trunade. Okay, so when you see that, you can probably assume things are going to be fine. Of course, if you just have a Nobleman in hand, you might as well just grab the MST and do what you're doing here. You do have to worry about potentially attacking into a Cyber Jar, of course. Okay, Tomas is going to... Oh, okay. Ooh, cool. We have Tribute Summon for Zaborg. All right. And Zaborg effect will just pop the set monster. And that's game 2 here, going to our Spellcaster control list. Wow, so we're going to hit game 3. Really loving this. These are some really interesting games. Some interesting plays. Not sure if all of them were correct. I'm still a little dubious about that Ring of Destruction stuff out of SS95. But holding on for dear life, but Tomas... Dude, I keep calling him Tomato. Tomas able to close it out there with the pretty interesting meta for Dark Balter play, and then just has the Zaborg plus MST combo to clear the way for the final attack. SS95, though, on this Ron control list, gonna get to go first here in game 3. We're gonna lead out with a Delinquent duo. Setting a monster first is a little bit strange. You might as well just duo first so that your opponent doesn't know that you have a monster to play. It's probably pretty marginal, but you might, it's generally good to duo before you do anything else. Most of the time, unless you have like Trap Dust Shoot or something, but we won't get into that. But generally, you just want to lead out with duo before you give away any info, even if you're just gonna like Upstart Goblin or Thunder Dragon. Like, there's no reason to give them the extra info. But duo here, turn 1 for SS95 is quite nice. Gonna hit a Mirror Force, which is interesting. I'm not really sure how much that does against Ron Control. Like, yeah, it'll have protected you from like the Alpha Strike a while ago. But otherwise, like, this isn't a deck whose game plan is to attack you to death. So, of course, as always, I do not know what 55 Tomas is on. So maybe Mirror Force makes the cut, barely. But it just seems like an interesting card to have here post-side against Wrong Control. Tomas going to discard a Scapegoat. Okay. Also a card that isn't really at its best. I mean, Creature Swap isn't that good here if you're just stealing jars that your opponent wants you to resolve, right? Well, being able to swing the tempo and resolve the jar on your terms is pretty nice. We saw SS95 in Game 1 getting tons of value off of being able to make sure the jar resolves specifically in their main phase 1. That's really the benefit of Book of Taiyu and stuff like that, because it allows you, like I said before, you have the tempo advantage of being the first player to get to use all of the new cards you just drew or summoned. So Scapegoat plus Creature Swap to steal that away, steal that tempo play away, is kind of valuable. But otherwise, it doesn't really do that much in the matchup. It's of course, you could just go Thousand Eyes, meta into Thousand Eyes plays to steal your opponent's sets and prevent them, but that just loses to stuff like Desert Sunlight. So yeah, you know what? Maybe control lists are not super well equipped to deal with wrong control, the more I think about it. But that just is what it is. This is 95, just gonna pass with the set monster as the only play. Tomas, you have to be prepared for maybe a Morphing Jar or a Cyber Jar, stuff like that. But already down a card thanks to getting hit by the duo. Just gonna set a back row pass. When you discard one Scapegoat, it's pretty likely that you have another Scapegoat in hand, is my guess. Especially when you just see, every time you're playing a Scapegoat deck, and you see them go, set one back row, pass, like your Scapegoat Spidey sense should be tingling, is the way I view it. So, now it doesn't have to be that card, right? It could be a lot of things. It could be Torrential, it could be whatever. But especially when having them discarded a Scapegoat, making it more likely that they would have had a second one, because they probably hold it otherwise. I don't know, it just screams Scapegoat to me. We'll see if I'm right, though. Definitely doesn't have to be. We're going to get Flip Summon Mystic Tomato, so SS95. Of course, you can't attack turn 1, so trying to bait out potential Nobleman of Crossout and stuff with just setting the monster turn 1. I guess so Mirror Force is good into Mystic Tomato to prevent crashes to search for the jars. So from that perspective, it's pretty good. Yeah, so maybe that's why. Yeah. Maybe I misspoke earlier. I can definitely see 55s where the Mirror Force makes the cut for specifically this interaction, right? And, Tomato Beatdown is a plan. It's probably a solid backup plan for round control. Going to start getting in for 1400. This is a real clock. It's a monster that's tricky to deal with, especially knowing what all the search targets are in SS95's deck. No back row here, though. Tomas just going to draw pass, taking a little bit of time. If Scapegoat is the card that's set, it is totally fine to sometimes just like take a few hits, wait to draw some other stuff, wait to draw some more interaction before you're scapegoating, using your life points as, additional time, essentially. It's fine, Tomato's only a 1400 beater. It will kill you eventually, but you can take a couple hits and be pretty fine, especially when your opponent's win con is generally like a big OTK turn or something. Sometimes they don't even win by damage, right? Like, just like it can do the empty jar thing where it just decks you out too. So in that case, your life points really don't even matter. So totally fine to not overreact to this tomato beatdown plan and just kind of take a couple hits, see some more cards, get more info to make a better decision. I think that's totally fine out of Tomas. SS95, yeah. Just gonna go attacking with this tomato. Tomas saying, I have seen enough, not gonna take another 14. Oh, they must have drawn Sinister for turn to get a nice discard outlet for their Raigeki break. And now they're just going to go a nice 1-for-1 trade there, blow up the tomato without getting its search effect off. So dealing with it nicely, protecting the life points a little bit more. And SS95 does have another set monster. to follow up with here, so Tomas not completely out of the weeds yet, but dealing with the first threat presented to them decently well. Still down a card thanks to that duo, but you're playing a control deck, you're used to these kind of longer slogs. Let's see, Upstart Goblin here. See another card, set a monster pass. Nothing super insane. SS95, Upstart of their own. Cool. Both players going back up to full life or close to it. We got another Mystic Summon Tomato, so trying really hard to bait out Nobleman of Crossouts. You got to think SS95 might be chilling with some jars in hand, right? Because otherwise, you could have just normal summoned the second Tomato next turn or last turn to start beating in for even more damage, which could have been a play if you wanted to go the more aggro route. That, of course, is really bad into Tribe Infecting Virus, right? So kind of slow rolling their tomatoes here, not going super aggro, and really trying to get the opponent to interact with them and bait out some removal. But plan B of Tomato Beatdown is live again. We're going to go attack into the set monster. It is that Sinister Serpent that Tomas just pitched the Raigeki break last turn, so able to wall out one tomato indefinitely. It's pretty nice. Still no back row. Tomas can safely grab that Serpent. Another upstart here. Put an SS95 all the way up to 9k. Looks like they drew into a Thunder Dragon off that upstart. So they're going to thin the deck a little bit. Get some more discard fodder in hand. Ooh, and that's pretty good when you have Tribe Infecting Virus. Probably see Tribe Call Plant, discard Serpent. Kill the tomato for free, and get a clock on board, 1600. You know, against these pseudo combo decks, having a clock is quite nice. Just to, you know, try and force the opponent to not be able to just wait until they have all the good stuff, right? So slamming down this tribe is pretty nice. Gonna pass turn. SS95. Gonna go T-set pass. Once again, a lot of stuff for Tomas to potentially worry about. Still has that Serpent, though. We're gonna go Tribute Summon for Zaborg here. So Tribe. Not gonna stick around here. Already got the value by blowing up the tomato without its effect going off. And now it will be used as a sacrifice for Zaborg to come through and pop this other set monster, which is a Sangan. Okay, so SS95, you're totally fine with that. Sangan's search effect will be able to go off. Let's see what they choose to grab. A lot of targets in deck. Gonna grab a Morphing Jar. Okay, cool. So now Tomas knows that one of the main combo pieces is in SS95's hand. So you got to be on red alert every time you see a set monster. But Zaborg is quite a big threat here and will start to clock SS95 pretty quickly. Gonna hit in for 2400. Drop SS95 all the way to 5k, and this is a 3-turn clock now. But basically any other monster in Tomas's deck will make it a 2-turn clock. So something you gotta worry about. Gonna go set a back row pass. SS95 has a Thunder Dragon here. Drew it for turn. Thin the deck a little bit more. And then you can go into Tribe of your own with Thunder Dragon in hand as discard fodder. So both tribes getting really solid value for both players this game. Gonna pop this Zaborg, clear out the big clock, get in for 1600. You know Mirror Force is gone, so no reason to really play around. Like, I'm sure Tomas isn't setting in Sakuretsu here. That would be kind of crazy. And now you have a clock of your own, so Beatdown Plan B is a go for SS95 once more. We know they've got at least the Morphing Jar in hand too, so Tomas can't go super crazy trying to deal with Plan B, otherwise he'll just lose to Plan A. They've got Breaker here, which is a nice 1-card way to deal with back row plus Tribe. No chain on summon, or no response to summon from SS95. So Tomas has to make the play of, you can either go aggro and go Tribe, keep the token, making it 1900, beat over, or Breaker, keep the token, having it be 1900, beat over Tribe in the battle phase, main phase 2, pop the set. Or the more conservative route is pop the set now, trade Tribe for Breaker. SS95, we haven't seen too many crazy battle traps out of them. I can't remember if we've seen even Mirror Force or Torrential so far this match, so you could just go you could just go the aggro play here and keep the clock on board. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to go and, okay, it's just Book of Moon. We're going to Chain Ring on your own breaker just to deal 1600 to SS95. And is it just BLS, get a Dark Engrave, attack for game? Is that just what we're going to see? Yeah, and there it is. That's game. Wow, okay, so both players really jockeying for position here. In game 3, SS95 was trying this tomato, try, beatdown plan stuff, had the Morphine Jar in hand, but never really committed to board and had no out for BLS for game there. Well, they had the book, but dealt with by the Breaker, and Breaker also happened to just beat the Dark that they needed in Grave, so losing with a ton of cards in hand kind of feels pretty bad, but really kind of slow game 3 there until Tomas decided it was time to pounce for game with a close to OTK there. And that is in a really, really interesting match. Spellcaster Control taking it down against Ron Control. Really interesting matchup. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Like I said, starting tomorrow, the ladder is going to reset, so might see some funkier stuff. So definitely tune in if you like seeing kind of the lower tier decks duke it out. We saw kind of a similar thing here today. But really cool stuff. Hope you guys liked it, and I will catch you all next time.